What's going on, everyone? It's me, Johnny. I'm here with my instant reactions to UFC 307. I have so many bloody thoughts on that card, man. That main event was absolutely insane. There was some ridiculous decisions from the judges as well, especially in that co-main with Pennington and Peña, and also to a lesser extent, but still I'm pretty pissed off about it, that fight with José Aldo. So we'll be getting into that. I'll be ranting a little bit, but of course we need to start off with the main event, Alex Pereira, Khalil Rountree Jr. We'll go in reverse order. Let's get into my thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe if you're new, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And by the way, you would have seen there hasn't been any podcast episodes recently. That's because I got food poisoning, so we missed out on a week, and now Rob is deep in fight camp. So we are not going to be having an episode until he returns home from his fight with Khamzat Chimaev. We want him to be prepared. We want him to train and focus on the fight. So while he's doing that, I'll be taking care of the channel, doing solo videos as often as I can, like today's one. So let's get right into it. Alex Pereira TKO's Khalil Rountree. This fight really lived up to all the bloody expectations. We expected these two to stand there and trade and bang, not, take each other down and smother each other and not do much ground and pound. This was going to be a straight striking fight. And it absolutely was. What an insane fight. What an insane ending to that fight. That fourth round, I feel bad for Khalil Rountree, but it was absolutely brutal. I will say this, though. I'm very glad we saw this fight. I'm very glad that Khalil Rountree Jr. was in this position. I know a lot of people thought that he didn't deserve to be, and of course, there are strong arguments for that. But it was an exciting fight. It was always going to be an exciting fight, so no one can be unhappy that the fight took place because you just saw how great it was, right? And Khalil Rountree, to boot, actually was doing pretty well at the start of that fight. How many fighters have taken 2 rounds off of Alex Pereira? Look what happened with Jamal Hill, smashed him. Look what happened with Yuri Prochazka twice, smashed him. Khalil Rountree actually stood his ground and was doing pretty well, especially in those first 2 rounds. But then, of course, as we got to the end of the third, and especially that fourth, he was slowly broken down, and Powhatan got the job done. But let's start off with that first round. So Khalil, he was looking good. He was looking comfortable, very quick, incredibly explosive. Alex was always sneaky with that calf kick, as he always is. That low calf kick was brutal. He never telegraphs it. It comes out of nowhere. Maybe Khalil was thinking he could avoid it, but as that fight went on, he couldn't, and that slowly helped break him down. But at the start of the fight, in the first round, the second round, I thought Khalil was looking good. He was coming in with the blitz nicely. He was explosive. He was landing nicely on Alex Pereira. He was trying not to get caught up against the cage, and that was a common theme in this fight. Alex was usually the one doing the pressuring, unless, obviously, Khalil Rountree was coming in with the blitz and exploding. But Pereira, because his body and his height and his intimidation factor, his positioning, he was always pressuring Khalil Rountree back. And he was constantly having to move back and side to side. And that was going to take a toll. Yes, he was fine in the first, he was fine in the second. But eventually, if he kept having to do that, he was going to get tired. Plus, as well, when you're constantly getting hit by Alex Pereira, when you're constantly getting kicked in the calf, it's going to slowly break you down. So we did really well in the first 2 rounds, but obviously the story started to change. But I would have given that first round to Khalil Rountree Jr. for sure. I would still say it was close, by the way. It was still close, but I would have given the edge to Khalil. Second round, I would have given the edge to Khalil as well. Now, Alex was doing well again with the calf kicks. He was doing well with the high kicks. Khalil was again trying not to back up, but it was hard. Even his coaches were saying, hey, you got to pressure him. You got to be the one that moves forward. Otherwise, you're going to continuously back up. And he tried to, but again, it's hard to not do that against Alex Pereira. He's just going to be that guy that is pressuring forward. It's just the kind of guy who he is. It's his demeanor, it's his stature, it's his intimidation factor. Khalil really tried, but unfortunately, he was always on the back foot when it came to that. Alex's range advantage was really clear. Yes, Khalil was landing. He was coming in, being explosive with the blitz, but he had actually a pretty low strike rate. I believe they were saying his strike rate in that second round was like 24%. So it was very low. He was throwing a lot more, right? And I think he still won that second round, but he had to do a lot of work to get there. And again, that contributed to him, I think, being very, very tired as we got towards the end of the third. And of course, in that fourth round. Again, Alex was working that calf kick. Khalil then landed a big right on Alex as he went for the high kick, and that seemed to trouble Alex Pereira. There was a nice combo in there from Khalil, a great head high kick from Khalil as well to end the round. So there was a moment in that second round where I thought, I think Alex has got this, but then those two pivotal strikes from Khalil, I think that meant he actually stole the second round in the end. Obviously, it didn't matter in the end, but I still thought that Khalil stole the round by the end, so I would have given him that second round, and I think a lot of people agreed with that online. But then we get the third, right? Then we get the third. The third started off, more of the same. Khalil tagged Alex nicely with a left and then a body shot kick. Alex had a weird reaction to that body shot. He kind of like walked back, I remember, hands down against the cage. And I thought, hold on, did you just like crack a rib or something? You looked really hurt, but then he recovered pretty nicely. There was a high head kick from Alex that kind of glanced off of Khalil's head. Wasn't a full connection, but still would have bloody hurt. Another clean right from Alex. And then Khalil had his own nice left hook. So at the start of that third round, it was definitely nice and back and forth. Then Khalil, after Alex misses the head kick, he had this really nice left counter. And I thought that also troubled Alex a little bit as well. But then Alex started to get the job done, right? He came in with the knees and the body kicks. He was working that jab really, really nicely. Khalil started to get tired by the end of that third round. Alex kept tagging him a couple of times, especially towards the end. I was like, you know what? He's starting to break him down. This could be the beginning of the end for Khalil. Unless he came out strong at the start of that fourth round, I was seeing some really severe warning signs for Khalil at the end of the third. So I would have given Alex that round. And then we saw that fourth round, man. That fourth round was so bloody brutal for Khalil Rountree. And I felt bad for him, right? Because he fought his bloody heart out. He has dog in him, whatever freaking phrase that you want to use. I thought he did everything he could to survive. And kudos to him, because a lot of people would have crumbled way, way earlier. Way, way earlier. But he lasted as long as he could. But up against Powhatan, man, it's just almost an insurmountable job. So Alex slowly broke Khalil down in that fourth round. Calf kicks, body shots. Khalil was just swinging to survive. He was tired. His eye was busted up. He had two really bad cuts, with his eye. It was screwing him up, man. And then constant left jabs, constant right hooks, uppercuts, knees, and then those body punches. Literally, Khalil just crumbled. He crumbled towards the end. He couldn't take any more. He did everything he could to survive. He was swinging. He was trying to do what he could, but he just couldn't handle it, man. And you know what? Don't blame him. As I said, most people in that position probably towards the end of the third round might have actually, tapped out. But Khalil managed to survive as long as he could in that fourth, but there's nothing that he could do. He was too tired, again, because of the backing up, because of those constant calf kicks, because of Alex constantly tagging him. Alex just hits so bloody hard, and it doesn't look like he does, but he clearly does, because Khalil just didn't know where he was. He just had no idea what to do in that fourth round. So it was a TKO victory for Alex Pereira. He defeats Khalil Rountree, but full props to Khalil Rountree. I don't want to hear anyone say that he didn't belong in that position. I don't want to hear anyone say that he didn't deserve that fight, right? Yes, it was weird with him getting it because of where he is in the rankings, but it was a good bloody fight. He put on a show for us. We just saw in the previous fight with Pennington and Peña how bad fights can be, even on a main card. So thank the MMA gods, thank the UFC and Dana for putting this together, because it was a fantastic fight, and Khalil Rountree proved he deserved to be in that position. But now switching to Alex Pereira. Who does he fight? He mentioned at the end of that fight, and this was strange for me, because I remember I was on Instagram after Dricus beat what's his name? Israel Adesanya. He was like, oh, maybe I want to move back to middleweight. At the end of his fight against Yuri Prohaska when he beat him, he teased maybe he wanted to move up to heavyweight, I believe anyways. But now he's saying I'm comfortable at light heavy. He also mentioned that Sean Strickland is his training partner now. I know that they train together, but to call him a training partner is kind of crazy when you only have trained a couple of times together. But he's his training partner. He doesn't want to get in his way because he's probably going to be fighting Dricus next. I don't know if that's true, by the way, because Dricus's coach said otherwise. But he doesn't want to get in Sean Strickland's way, and he likes the weight cut at light heavy. He seems comfortable at light heavy. And he needs to fight Magomed Ankalaev. That is the fight to make. Of course, Ankalaev is about to fight Rakic, but we all assume that he's going to beat Rakic, and that will absolutely be the fight to make. Arguably, it probably was the fight to make before the Khalil Rountree fight. But I'm so happy that we got to see Khalil Rountree against Alex Pereira, because I think that fight was probably, or is going to be better than Magomed Ankalaev against Alex Pereira, unless we see Pereira just knock out Ankalaev, which could happen, but I'm just glad that we saw the Khalil Rountree fight. But absolutely, Ankalaev is next. If he was to beat Rakic, every chance that doesn't happen, but I think he is going to walk through Rakic. Let's see what happens. But I'm happy that Alex Pereira, by the way, is going to be staying at light heavy because I'm just sick of the weight moves. I'm sick of the changes. I'm sick of the double champ shit. Just stay in your freaking weight class and have at least a solid line of defenses. Once you get 5, once you get 6, and once you've beaten the brakes off everyone in that division, then you can talk about moving up or moving down. But in the meantime, it just stalls other divisions, right? And we want to see the movement. We want to see new fights and fresh fights. So I'm happy that he's saying that I'm going to stay in light heavy, and he's probably going to be fighting Ankalaev next. And now let's move on to the co-main. Julianna Peña against Raquel Pennington. I am really tempted to not even break down this fight because I'm so pissed off by it. Julianna Peña beats Raquel Pennington by split decision to obtain the title. Okay. I need to collect myself because I got so pissed. I tweeted out about this. I got so pissed. I don't like to call a lot of fights robberies, right? That end in a weird way. Oftentimes, like I wouldn't necessarily call the Jose Aldo loss a robbery. I was pissed off by it, but I wouldn't call it a robbery. This I thought was absolutely a robbery, right? Pennington absolutely beat Julianna Peña. Now, when you look at the second and third round, yes, Peña won those rounds. Clear as day. Clear as day. Fourth and fifth rounds, absolutely, in my opinion, Pennington won those rounds. So, and that was in the eyes of all the judges, by the way. All the judges gave the second and third to Peña and the fourth and fifth to Pennington. So it came down to that first round. And unfortunately, especially the first 3 rounds, but especially the first round in particular, it was such a low output round. That one of those rounds where it's really low output, neither really doing much because it's at the start of a 5-round fight. I'm like, crap, this could go either way now because there's not much to judge. There's not much to go off of. And Peña technically landed more significant strikes. Not by much. I think it was like a few more. Technically, Peña landed more. And I was like, oh no, if it really comes down to that first round, given the other results and decisions in this card, I thought they could actually give Peña this, even though I don't believe she deserved it. I believe Pennington won that first round. Yes, it was low output. Yes, she landed a little less, but I thought she landed the more damaging strikes. It's effective striking, which is the bloody criteria here. And Pennington, even though I still wasn't that impressed by both of them, how can you say that Peña won that first round? How can you say 2 of the judges gave Peña that first round? Peña's striking is ass, bro. This whole fight, I'll be honest with you, until the 4th and 5th round where it started to pick up, the whole fight was ass. And I was pissed off for that reason. But I still don't know how you can give Peña the win. I still don't know how you can give Peña that first round. I don't believe that she won. Yes, she landed a significant strike, but there are different kinds of significant bloody strikes. And I didn't think that any of her significant strikes were all that good. Pennington won. Pennington won that fight. I will go tooth and nail, argue against anyone for that. What a ridiculous bloody decision. Yes, it was close. It was close. But that still doesn't mean it wasn't a bad decision. I actually would consider this highway robbery. Absolutely. And you know what? Let me scroll down here to see my notes because I'm so pissed off. We need to get Kayla Harrison in there. Now, look, I wasn't all too impressed with Kayla Harrison's victory tonight. I'll be honest with you. But she's way better than those two. She's way better than those two. She can at least put on a little bit more of a show. She's way stronger. Her striking is a little bit sus as well. But I think we need to get Kayla Harrison in there and just have her beat the brakes off of Julianna Peña. I honestly want to see that happen because I don't believe Peña won that fight. Someone tweeted out today that Peña beating Amanda Nunes the first time was the worst thing to happen to that division, to that women's division. And I couldn't agree more because now Peña's back in that spot. She somehow got this crazy decision victory, and now she's going to be fighting probably Kayla Harrison next. I just want to see Kayla Harrison beat the brakes off of her. And Peña had the gall and the audacity to call out a retired Amanda Nunes and not even mention Kayla Harrison by name. The freaking camera was on Harrison. She saw her, she just won that night. Yes, it wasn't the craziest victory in the world, but she still won pretty dominantly. That's the fight to make. You know you're going to be fighting Kayla Harrison next. Don't try and call out Nunes. Yeah, idiot. I'm so angry, bro. I'm so angry with that result. But it is what it is, right? Let's move on to the next one. Mario Bautista apparently beat Jose Aldo, by split decision. Bantamweight fight. Look, This one was close, all right? I'm still annoyed by the decision. We are going to go round by round because I think this fight deserves it because it definitely was close. It came down to the third round. So in the first round, I would have said Mario won that round. So we started off fast. Jose was working the kicks. Mario kept Jose in the clinch for a lot of that round. And this was a lot of the story of this fight. There was a lot of clinching. There was a lot of takedown attempts from Mario. And literally, I don't think any of the takedowns were successful. So they ended up just clinching against the cage for a good portion of this fight. And we saw a lot of that in the first round. He tried to throw some of the knees against the legs of Jose Aldo, and he was controlling the head position, but there wasn't the craziest damage in there. After the clinch, Mario, though, at least in this first round, he still was keeping busy. There were elbows, there were strikes. He caught Aldo with a nice punch, and then they went back into the clinch. Jose was managing to throw a couple of nice combos in there. There was a strong right hand from him as well. But I would say in that first round, yes, I was annoyed with the clinching, but at least Mario was staying a little bit busier than Jose, and I was happy to give him that first round. Second round, I thought went to Jose Aldo. So the jab from Jose Aldo, I believe, was the one that cut Mario open, and then Aldo was just throwing heat, man. He got a bit of a talking to from his coaches in between the rounds, and he was throwing He threw that huge knee up the middle. It caught Mario on the head. That was beautiful. And then Aldo was keeping his hands low. The judges said that he might be getting, the commentator said he might be getting a little bit tired. I didn't know about that. I thought he was just getting a little bit confident, keeping his hands low. Mario then got back in with the clinch. There were a nice couple of shoulder strikes in the clinch, kind of like reminiscent of, what was it? It was Conor McGregor against freaking Cerrone. I thought maybe we could have gotten a knockout from that, but Jose Aldo, he's a different beast, man. I didn't think he was going to get knocked out by the end. But Mario was turning it up at least a little bit in the clinch there, and then both were swinging hard. Aldo, I thought, was landing more. I thought his jabs were very stiff. They were landing cleaner than Mario's strikes. He was just doing a little bit more. And then again, they went back into the clinch at the end of that round. Mario kept trying to take down Jose Aldo. It was never happening, but he kept trying to do it to essentially try and just wait out the fight to potentially win. That's what happened in the end, and I hate that it was successful, but when he tried to do that in the second, it wasn't enough to give him that round, in my personal opinion, especially because after the clinch, after the break they broke, Aldo was throwing hard again. So second round absolutely went to Aldo. And then we're talking about the third. The third one, I will admit, and that's why I don't want to call this fight a robbery necessarily, because it was hard to judge. There was a lot of clinching, and Aldo was not doing enough to deter or to change the mind of the judges, right? Because he left it up to chance, and we saw some weird decisions, right, early in that card as well. It was risky. It was risky for him to do that. And I don't know, man. I'm getting so discombobulated because I really thought that Aldo won this fight. I thought that he did slightly enough in the third round to take this whole fight. But because there was so much clinching and there wasn't much done, and then Aldo didn't throw all too much outside of the clinch, like there wasn't much for the judges to go off of. So it was a flip of the coin kind of situation. I still thought Aldo, even though he needed to be more busy, he needed to throw more, he needed to do more to get out of the clinch, I still thought he did more damage. I still thought he had more effective striking because, especially in that third round, Mario did nothing with the clinch. He did nothing with the position. He did nothing. He didn't even take him down, as I mentioned. So I was pissed off. I was pissed off that essentially because Mario kept the control for most of that third round, like he did that so much and Aldo didn't have all too much offense that I knew the judges were going to give it to Mario. I knew they were going to do that. But if you went off straight striking and straight damage, I still would have given Aldo that third round. But again, I'm not going to call it a robbery because of all those circumstances. I was more pissed off with the Pennington fight, to be honest. But Mario Bautista wins. He defeats Jose Aldo. I don't want to see Jose Aldo retire. I still think he's doing pretty good. Like, he's just had one loss. He came off a pretty strong victory recently. So I do not want to see Jose Aldo retire. Yes, he's 38. He's getting a little bit older. But who the hell cares? The division is better with him in it. Mario, he's probably ranked 10th now. He could fight Rob Font, Song Yadong, maybe even Cheeto. I don't want to see him fight too high up the rankings, though, because I wasn't too impressed with that victory. And then we got Dolidze against Kevin Holland. This was interesting because I was seeing a lot of the commentary leading into the fight, and I'm not bullshitting you here. I was like so confused where people were saying so confidently that Kevin Holland was going to win that fight. I was confused. I was like, yes, I know Dolidze is slow. I get that, right? His striking is not that great. But we just saw what he did against Anthony Smith on short notice fighting up a weight class. How can you just dismiss Roman Dolidze so bloody easily, especially with Kevin Holland coming back to middleweight, and he hasn't exactly been on a tear. Yes, he's fast, he's a great striker, but people were completely dismissing Roman Dolidze, and I thought Roman Dolidze was going to win, not in this fashion, but I thought he was going to get the job done, but no one was giving him any chance whatsoever, and especially because Roman, yes, he's very good on the ground, he's a very good grappler, he got his black belt by the end of it, and it was a weird scramble that led to the end. But still, if Roman was able to get this fight to the ground, there's every chance of something like that happening or a submission or whatever it might be. And then we saw that Kevin Holland got that very, very weird rib injury, whether it was a fracture or a break or whatever it was. You could hear Kevin Holland scream out in pain. He kept screaming, and Roman was just constantly using the ground and pound. To be honest, do you remember that fight? Was it the Tafa fight in Perth where he screamed out in pain and the ref called it? I was like, hold on, could you do a verbal submission here? Because he was screaming out so much in pain and Roman kept doing the ground and pound. I thought there might have been a little bit of an argument for that. I was happy that it wasn't called for because Kevin Holland was fighting. He was doing his best. He obviously didn't want to stop the fight. You saw that in between the rounds when they were debating whether to stop the fight. So in the end, I'm glad that they didn't call it. But I thought, there was a small chance there that they could have done that and the ref could have called it because Kevin Holland was clearly in pain. He kept screaming out in pain. Dolidze was beating the brakes off him with the ground and pound. And then we saw in between rounds, the coach called it. Like, he was not confident. He's like, I don't want to stop the fight. I want to keep fighting, but I'm in freaking pain. You could see that he was in pain. The coach called it. It was the correct decision. And if it wasn't the coach, the ref probably could have done it as well, especially at the beginning of that second round, if it was to go into that second round. So I was happy with that. I'm glad that they called it. Very unfortunate for Kevin Holland. But it wasn't obviously, unfortunately for Roman Dolidze as well, he won, but it wasn't the most, impressive victory. He won on a TKO, and not a good kind of TKO. It was a freak injury. Yes, he caused it in the grapple, but it didn't make him look all that good at the end of that fight, which is why I thought it was weird that I think he tried to call for the winner or the loser of Rob versus Khamzat Chimaev, which doesn't make sense, man. Especially if you completely beat the brakes off Kevin Holland, and especially what you did against Anthony Smith, then I could see the argument. But because it was that kind of victory, I thought there's no way you can fight that high up the rankings, right? Especially when he lost. Who's he lost against? He lost against Vettori and I believe Nasruddin as well. So how can he try and fight people? Well, at least Rob, how can you fight Rob who is ranked higher than Imavov, who is ranked higher than Vettori? Doesn't make sense. Yes, Khamzat Chimaev isn't ranked higher, but Khamzat's in a weird position because he did so well. He's undefeated and all this other crap. He's in a weird spot, Khamzat, I know, but it just didn't make sense for me to have Roman Dolidze try and call out either the winner or even the loser of that fight. He needs to fight someone like Paulo Costa, maybe Brendan Allen, people that are coming off of losses. He can't fight that high up the rankings. But that was the Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland fight. Next up, Kayla Harrison beat Ketlen Vieira. You know what? Vieira troubled Kayla Harrison a little bit more than I thought she would. But Kayla Harrison, by the end, proved she's just too strong, too dominant. Her judo is insane. Her striking looks a little bit sus, as I mentioned. Still looks a little bit odd. She does that weird strike and then does the judo throw and the takedown, which is successful, but it just looks a little bit odd. It looks a little bit funny. Kayla Harrison's, go-to plan should always be trying to take them down and dominate them, right? Her striking is not that good. It's never been her strong suit. Yes, she's still learning, absolutely. It's not been her background. She's been, a judo background. But I still wasn't too impressed with the victory. But I still want Kayla Harrison to beat Julianna Peña because I think Kayla Harrison's the better bantamweight. I think she's the better fighter than Peña. I don't think Peña deserves to be in that position. It should be Kayla Harrison against Raquel Pennington, right? Even though I still wasn't too impressed with Raquel Pennington, I still believe that she deserves to be in that position. But to be honest, man, the women's bantamweight division is looking a little sus, man. It's not too impressive right now. And I hope that Kayla Harrison beats the brakes off of Peña. And maybe that's enough to bring Amanda Nunes back. That would be good. That would save the division, at least for the next year or so for me. But then finally, we have Joaquin Buckley against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This isn't in the main card, but I do want to cover it because it's the featured prelim fight. You know what, man? Wonderboy was doing good. Wonderboy was doing pretty good. Buckley was struggling. Like, he got the takedowns, but he could never keep bloody Stephen Thompson down, right? He just could never do it. Wonderboy kept getting back up. We know how good his takedown defense is. Yes, he was getting taken down, but there was no damage done because he just stood right back up. So that first round clearly went to Wonderboy, in my opinion. He got the better strikes. The second round was closer. I would have given that to Buckley, but then we don't even need to talk about that because Buckley came out really strong in the third. He was exploding, swinging for the bloody fences, man. And I thought, if he lands one of those clean, Wonderboy's going, especially at his age. It's going to happen. And then that brutal right hook punched him on the button. Wonderboy crumbled. He was knocked out, and Joaquin Buckley won. He has 5 in a row now, right? Which is really impressive. He's beaten Morono, Vincente Luque, Ruzaboyev, and obviously now Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's undefeated as a welterweight, likely moving into 9th spot. He did call out Kamaru Usman. I think that's a little too high. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad call out necessarily, but I think there are people ahead of him in that division that probably deserve that fight more. Because if someone does beat Kamaru Usman, that probably puts them in the position to have a title opportunity, right? So I think people like Ian Gary, Sean Brady, JDM, are the ones that should be fighting up, are the ones that should be fighting someone like Kamaru Usman or someone like, what's his freaking name, man? It's on the tip of my tongue. Leon Edwards. I can't believe I forgot his name. They are the ones that have done a little bit more in the division and should be fighting up. Don't get me wrong. Buckley is doing really well, but those guys are ahead of him right now, and they should be getting those fights. So in my opinion, if Gilbert Burns is still going to fight, he might. I don't know if he's going to retire or not. I don't think he will. I think he's that kind of guy that he's going to continuously want to keep fighting until he just can't do anymore. So maybe against Gilbert Burns is a better fight, right? I just don't think he deserves Kamaru Usman right now. I think there are other people in that division a little bit more deserving. Of course, Rakhmonov is fighting for the title next. But welterweight, I will say, is getting very interesting. Maybe he could fight Covington. But what the hell is Covington doing? Is he still fighting? I don't know, man. Like, Covington seems like he just wants to sit on the bench until he gets a good fight with a top-ranked dude, even though he doesn't deserve it because he's lost, right? Like, he doesn't deserve it. He should be fighting someone like Buckley. So who the hell knows what Covington is doing. But as I mentioned, welterweight is heating up. It's getting very interesting. We have Buckley, we have JDM, we have Ian Gary. I know people don't like Ian Gary, but we have Ian Gary. We have Shavkat Rakhmonov. We still have MVP doing his thing. Like, I know he lost. He obviously lost against Ian Gary, but it was a weird loss, and he's still exciting. He could still have some good fights in that division. So let's see what happens. But as I said, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I recorded this in one take. I'm not stopping the recording. I know I stopped and stumbled. It's been a while since I've done a video. I apologize for that. Let me know if you want more solo videos from me. And again, we're not going to have the podcast until Robert gets back from his fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Wish him all the luck in the world. Really hope he wins. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to get it bloody done. Let's do it. But until the next video, this has been Johnny. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you in that video.